We were a perfect match of flaws.
Right.
We went together very well, but not necessarily for the right reason.
We knew what happened in the script. We knew that something came out of John Hurt's chest because his line was, "Oh my goo-ah."
Don't do that. I don't like it. But I couldn't.
Hollywood once thought no one would ever watch a woman fight monsters. They wanted a huge star like Meryl Streep for the lead role in a terrifying new movie called Alien. But then, a relatively unknown actress named Sigourney Weaver walked in and completely changed movie history. She became Ripley, the ultimate survivor, a character so powerful she broke all the rules. But after 4 incredible films, she walked away from the franchise that made her a superstar. Why? What really happened? Now, at 75, she's finally revealing the disturbing truth. The shocking failures, the creepy clones, the threats she faced, and the dark secret that made her refuse millions of dollars to return. Get ready, because Sigourney Weaver is about to pull back the curtain on Alien like never before. Sigourney Weaver was born on October 8, 1949, and her birth name was Susan Alexandra Weaver. Her family was already pretty famous, even before she became a star. Her father, Pat Weaver, was a huge name in early television. He was the brilliant mind who created The Today Show and The Tonight Show, which completely changed how TV worked forever. Her mother, Elizabeth English, was an actress who even starred in a classic movie called The 39 Steps Back in 1935, but she later gave up acting to focus on raising her family. Sigourney also had other famous relatives. Her uncle, Doodles Weaver, was a well-known comedian, and her godfather was Steve Allen, who was the very first host of The Tonight Show. So you can see, she was surrounded by show business royalty. But even with all this fame around her, Sigourney didn't really feel like she belonged. Her parents were super busy with their demanding careers, and she often felt ignored or left out. She once said she felt like a little girl in a big house with no one to talk to. She wasn't the kind of person to just rely on her family's success. Instead of immediately chasing acting, she went to Stanford University to study English literature. And her college life was far from normal. She actually lived in a tree house with her boyfriend, played the flute, and sometimes even dressed in elf costumes just for fun. She did do some acting in school plays, like A Streetcar Named Desire, but at that point, she thought being a professional actress was a bit silly. That idea changed when she traveled to Israel after college to work on a farm. While there, far away from everything, she realized how much she truly missed storytelling. So, she decided to apply to the Yale School of Drama, a very famous acting school. Yale wasn't easy for her. She had incredibly talented classmates, like Meryl Streep, who seemed to get all the best roles, while Sigourney often got stuck playing old ladies, which was kind of insulting for someone in their early 20s. Some of her professors didn't believe in her at all. One even told her bluntly, "You have no talent, you should leave." But instead of giving up, she became even more determined to prove them all wrong. Before all that Yale drama, something pretty big happened when she was just 14. She decided to change her name. She found the name Sigourney in the classic book The Great Gatsby, and thought it suited her much better. She was already 5 feet 11 inches by 6th grade, and she felt like Susan just didn't fit someone so tall. People sometimes made fun of her height, even calling her the giant spider. But changing her name made her feel stronger, like she was stepping into a new, more powerful version of herself. Later, that unique name actually helped her in Hollywood. Some casting directors thought Sigourney sounded like a man's name and were surprised when she showed up for auditions. That unexpected surprise actually helped her get noticed and remembered. At Yale, things slowly started turning around when she met Christopher Durang, a fellow student who also felt like a bit of an outsider. They started working together on strange, experimental plays. In one play called Titanic, 1976, she played a woman who kept live animals inside her body. Yes, you heard that right, inside her body. It was bizarre, but it showed that she could mix weirdness with deep emotion all at the same time. Then, they created Das Lusitania Songspiel, a wild play that openly mocked war and capitalism. Sigourney played a sex worker who would smash champagne bottles while singing about money. Critics thought it was absolutely insane, but it got the attention of Warren Beatty, a famous actor and director, who called it punk theater. When it came time for her final performance at Yale, instead of doing a serious monologue, she did a piece about a woman trying to seduce a refrigerator. Her professors actually failed her for it, but Durang secretly gave the script to some agents, and that unexpected moment led to her very first off-Broadway role. Before Alien, she was a well-known part of New York's weird and boundary-pushing theater scene. She and Durang kept working together, constantly pushing the limits of what people expected from plays. In Das Lusitanias Songspiel, they even added a hedgehog puppet that symbolized capitalism, a version of Romeo and Juliet where the lovers shouted Marxist slogans, and a scene where Sigourney, dressed as the Titanic, dramatically sank while singing. Most critics hated it at first, but it quickly became a cult hit. That's when Mike Nichols, a famous director, saw her talent and later cast her in a Broadway play. Her very first film role wasn't anything special at all. She was in Woody Allen's Annie Hall, 1977, for a mere 6 seconds. She had no lines and was just standing quietly in a trench coat next to Woody Allen and Diane Keaton. She later joked, "I made $50 and spent it on a sandwich." It was a bit embarrassing, but it actually ended up helping her in a big way. The casting director, Juliet Taylor, remembered her distinctive look and later suggested her for Alien. And because no one expected the tall, quiet girl from Annie Hall to fight a terrifying monster, it made her powerful performance in Alien even more surprising and impactful. Later, fans even started playing a fun game called Where's Sigourney?, trying to spot her in Annie Hall. It was kind of funny how her first big moment in movies was just standing there in the background, almost invisible. But soon, she wouldn't be in the background anymore. She was about to become one of the biggest stars in science fiction history. Sigourney Weaver's role as Ripley in Ridley Scott's Alien, 1979, changed science fiction movies forever, but it almost didn't happen. The original script for Alien, written in 1976, didn't actually specify if the characters were male or female, but early drafts mostly used male pronouns. So, no one really expected the lead character, Ripley, to be a woman. When director Ridley Scott and 20th Century Fox president Alan Ladd Jr. decided to make Ripley female, it was a huge, brave risk for Hollywood at the time. At just 29 years old, Weaver was a relatively unknown actress. She wasn't even the first choice for the role. Famous actresses like Meryl Streep and Glenn Close were considered before her, but ultimately, Weaver got the part. She played Ripley in a way no one had ever seen before. She wasn't weak. She wasn't waiting to be rescued by a man. She was smart, incredibly tough, and knew exactly how to survive against unimaginable horror. But Hollywood didn't really respect that at first. She was only paid a very small amount, just $35,000, while her co-star John Hurt, who only appeared briefly, made $250,000. Fox didn't even truly want her at first. They genuinely thought that a female action hero wouldn't work in a big-budget sci-fi movie. Scott had to fight hard to prove them wrong. He made her train intensely with ex-Marines, so she looked genuinely strong and confident handling machinery on set. The risk paid off in a massive way. Audiences were completely shocked when the male captain, played by Tom Skerritt, died first, leaving Ripley, the woman, as the last one standing. Ripley wasn't just a side character. She was the ultimate survivor, a true icon born from a gamble that changed everything. Sigourney Weaver's Oscar nomination for James Cameron's Aliens, 1986, was something truly unexpected. Back then, Hollywood didn't take science fiction movies seriously at all. The Academy, which gives out the Oscars, mostly gave awards to emotional dramas or romantic films, not action-packed movies with aliens and explosions. But Weaver's performance as Ellen Ripley in Aliens was just too powerful and captivating to ignore. She wasn't like the other nominees that year, who typically played women dealing with heartbreak or personal struggles. Ripley was completely different. She was strong, smart, and absolutely fearless. She led hardened soldiers into battle, fought off terrifying alien creatures, and fiercely protected a little girl named Newt. She showed incredible strength and deep emotion all at the same time, which was something very rare to see in action movies of that era. But in the end, Weaver didn't win the Oscar. It went to Marlee Matlin for Children of a Lesser God, who made history as the first deaf actor to win. Many people believed Weaver had been robbed because the Academy still didn't truly respect science fiction as a serious genre. However, her nomination alone changed things significantly. Years later, when Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for Gravity, many people saw it as clear proof that Weaver had helped open the door for women to be taken seriously as action heroes in big Hollywood films. 2 years later, in 1989, Weaver did something no one had ever done before in Hollywood. She won 2 Golden Globes in one night. One was for Gorillas in the Mist, where she played the real-life scientist Dian Fossey, and the other was for Working Girl, where she played a ruthless, manipulative boss. No actor had ever won 2 acting awards in the same night before, and incredibly, no one has done it since. These 2 very different roles clearly showed just how amazingly talented and versatile she was. In Gorillas in the Mist, she completely transformed into Dian Fossey, a woman who dedicated her entire life to protecting gorillas in Africa. Weaver spent months studying Fossey's behavior, even living among real gorillas. The experience was incredibly tough. She got sick with dysentery while filming in Rwanda and bravely refused to use a stunt double for dangerous scenes. In Working Girl, she played the complete opposite character, a manipulative, arrogant executive who cruelly steals ideas and credit from her assistant. She made the character so believable that people in Hollywood joked she must have been channeling every horrible boss they had ever met. Winning those 2 major awards in one night proved she could literally do anything. But Weaver, ever humble, just laughed about it later, saying, "I think the voters got confused and checked my name twice." Even after all this incredible success, she didn't want to get stuck playing the same kind of role over and over again. After Aliens, Hollywood kept offering her tough, action hero roles, but she wisely turned them down. She didn't want to be typecast, meaning she didn't want to be known only for one kind of character. She even refused huge roles in Total Recall and The Silence of the Lambs, both of which became massive hits. Instead, she chose movies that challenged her in different ways. She played a quiet, unhappy housewife in The Ice Storm, which won her a BAFTA award. She took on a dark, incredibly emotional role in Death and the Maiden, playing a woman confronting her former torturer. That role was so intense that the director called it emotional surgery. And even when she wasn't on screen, she still made a huge impact. She lent her distinctive voice to the animated film WALL-E, proving she could captivate audiences without even being seen. But science fiction always seemed to pull her back. She returned for Alien 3, 1992, but only on her terms. She demanded that Ripley's story be meaningful, not just another sequel with mindless action. She wanted her character's death to have a real purpose, a definitive end to her terrifying journey. Sigourney Weaver's time on Alien 3 was nothing short of a nightmare. The original idea for the movie was completely different from what ended up on screen. At first, the story was supposed to take place on a strange, wooden monastery planet where a group of monks lived in isolation. They believed Ripley was some kind of divine test, and when the xenomorph, the alien creature, appeared, they thought it was their punishment for sin. This version, written by Vincent Ward, was given the green light by Fox in 1990. It was filled with eerie religious imagery, hand-carved wooden corridors, candlelit rituals, and promised a slow-burning horror that mixed deep faith with primal fear. But just 3 weeks before filming was supposed to start, the studio suddenly scrapped the entire thing. The script was thrown out, the sets were only halfway built, and now the movie had no story. Fox panicked because test audiences hated the idea that Newt, the little girl from Aliens, was killed off-screen. So, at the very last minute, they switched everything to a grim prison planet setting instead. This change wasted millions of dollars and plunged the entire production into chaos. Weaver later said, "This was the moment when Hollywood stopped taking risks and started making movies just to avoid financial losses. To direct this mess, Fox hired David Fincher. He was only 28 years old and had never made a feature film before, only music videos. And from the start, the studio controlled his every move. Every morning, he had a fight with executives just to shoot the scenes his way. He was working with a script that had been ripped apart and rewritten over and over. Earlier drafts included one from cyberpunk writer William Gibson, which focused on Cold War bioweapons, and another from Near Dark's Eric Red, which was more horror-focused. In the end, none of that remained. The movie borrowed pieces from a Prison Break draft written by Walter Hill, but the spiritual, eerie elements of Ward's Monastery script were completely gone. Fincher's dark, unsettling style was constantly rejected by the studio. He wanted the opening credits to show Newt's autopsy, making Ripley's grief feel real and painful, but Fox cut it, saying it was too depressing. On set, some crew members even mocked him, and one producer reportedly told him, "You could piss against a wall for 2 hours and call it Alien 3. It'll still make $30 million. Fincher was so utterly frustrated that after the movie, he actually left Hollywood for a while. When he came back, he famously refused to let studios control his films, which is why amazing movies like Seven and Fight Club happened his way on his terms. Weaver had her own battles during the production of Alien 3. Ripley was completely transformed in this film. She had a shaved head, wore plain prison clothes, and looked worn down from radiation exposure. To create this look, makeup artists used prosthetic glue on her scalp, but it caused severe allergic reactions. She broke out in painful rashes, and they had to switch to medical-grade glue, which still delayed filming. Even shaving her head became a fight. Fincher wanted it real, but Fox wanted her to wear a wig because they thought audiences wouldn't find her attractive enough. Weaver absolutely refused. She later said, "Ripley wasn't there to be desirable, she was there to survive." Fox didn't like this. In retaliation, they removed her co-producer credit from early trailers and even promoted the movie with the tagline, "The bitch is back." Weaver was furious, calling it insulting and cheap. She had pushed hard to have a say in the movie. After Aliens, she was powerful enough to demand script approval. When the studio killed off Newt and Hicks, she insisted that Ripley had to die too. Otherwise, the whole story would feel pointless. But the endless rewrites and studio interference drained her. She later admitted the whole thing made her feel exhausted and defeated. This experience also opened her eyes to how Hollywood sometimes treated women. Male executives called her hysterical for having creative input, and some crew members didn't like taking orders from a woman. She even seriously thought about quitting acting because of it. But despite everything, she still bravely defended Fincher. She believed the movie was buried under studio interference, but she saw the good in what Fincher was trying to do. Fincher himself wanted nothing to do with the movie after it came out. He famously called it a nightmare and said, "No one hates it more than me." When Fox released a longer cut of the film in 2003, restoring 30 minutes of deleted footage, he refused to be involved. The scene he hated most was Ripley's death. Originally, she was supposed to sacrifice herself by jumping into molten lead, but at the very last second, Fox forced a change, making the xenomorph burst from her chest as she fell. Fincher thought it was stupid and unnecessary, just a way to copy Terminator 2's famous ending. Weaver, on the other hand, still has mixed feelings about the film. She knows the movie is flawed, but she also thinks it was bold. She respects Fincher for not making it safe. Killing Newt was a huge risk, but she felt it made Ripley's grief more real and powerful. Over time, the film has gained a cult following. Some fans now appreciate its dark themes of corporate exploitation and bodily autonomy. Weaver believes it deserved better than the hate it got upon its initial release. Sigourney Weaver returned in Alien Resurrection, 1997, but this time, she wasn't quite the same Ripley. She played a clone, Ripley 8, who wasn't fully human anymore. Scientists had mixed her DNA with the xenomorphs, giving her strange new powers. She was stronger, faster, and even had corrosive acid for blood. She could even sense the aliens, almost like she was one of them, intimately connected to them. Weaver wanted to show this transformation in the way she moved. She didn't just walk. She stalked, crouched, and stared through people like a predator. In one chilling scene, she even growled, "I'm the monster's mother." But Ripley 8 wasn't just dangerous. She was also deeply lost and confused. In one of the film's most disturbing moments, she found a lab filled with failed clones of herself, twisted, deformed, and suffering. One of them begged her to kill it. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just a copy of Ripley. She was something else entirely, a new, unsettling being. Critics didn't widely like the film, saying it was too weird and strayed too far from the original's horror roots. But Weaver bravely defended it. Ripley, she said, had fundamentally changed. This was a new version of her, and she wanted to explore that complex transformation. One of the most famous moments in the movie wasn't even planned to happen the way it did. There was a scene where Ripley had to throw a basketball over her shoulder without looking and make the shot perfectly into the hoop. The director wanted to fake it with computer-generated imagery, CGI, but Weaver refused. She spent weeks practicing, even training with an NBA coach, determined to do it for real. On the day of filming, the crew expected to be there all day, trying to get a perfect take. But then, on the very first try, she made it. Everyone on set was stunned. Ron Perlman, who was in the scene, completely broke character and shouted, "Holy S asterisk asterisk asterisk." They had to quickly cut the scene because his genuine reaction wasn't in the script. People still talk about it, calling it one of the greatest flukes in movie history. Even Weaver joked, "I could have won a halftime show." In a movie full of CGI effects, this one raw, real moment stood out and became instantly legendary. The film itself got a lot of hate when it first came out, but over time, people started to love it for how crazy and unique it was. It had some truly strange moments, like a human xenomorph hybrid with big, creepy eyes. There was also a scientist talking to the aliens like they were his pets, which was unsettling. And then there was Weaver, fully embracing the madness. She had some ridiculous lines like, "Who do I have to F asterisk 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 to get off this boat?" And in one scene, she even licked blood off Winona Ryder's face. She later said she actually liked the weirdness of it all. The director had a very strange vision, and she respected that. Some scenes actually work surprisingly well, like the terrifying underwater chase where xenomorphs hunted the crew through flooded hallways. It was incredibly terrifying and intense. But then there were scenes that just didn't work at all, like the one where the hybrid alien gets sucked out into space through a tiny hole. Critics called it one of the worst CGI moments ever. Weaver admitted the movie had problems, but she didn't regret doing it. "It's not Alien, but it's something," she said. After Alien Resurrection, Weaver made sure Ripley's story wouldn't be turned into a cheap action franchise. That's why she completely refused to be in Alien vs. Predator, 2004. She thought the idea was ridiculous. "It's like making Jaws fight Godzilla," she famously said. She had already asked for Ripley to be killed off in Alien 3 because she didn't want the character to be brought back just for money. When Fox decided to make AVP, she was furious. She felt like they were destroying Ripley's sacrifice and the integrity of the character just to make a quick, brainless action movie. She even blamed AVP for ruining Ridley Scott's plans for a proper third Alien film. Over the years, she never changed her mind. She wanted Ripley to be remembered as a true sci-fi hero, a powerful survivor, not just another action figure in a cash grab franchise. Even though she was done with the movies, Weaver still found a clever way to bring Ripley back to fans through video games. She returned to voice Ripley in Alien Isolation, 2014, a critically acclaimed game about Ripley's daughter, Amanda. The game's developers asked her to record dialogue for a special mission where players could experience scenes from the original Alien. She even reunited with the original cast members to make it feel incredibly real and authentic. Unlike the later movies, this game focused entirely on intense fear and survival instead of nonstop action, which Weaver loved. "This is the sequel Alien 3 should have been," she said. Fans were shocked she agreed to do it since she had turned down so many Alien projects, but for her, this was different. "Games let Ripley exist without Hollywood's baggage," she said, giving the character a pure, focused story. At 61, Sigourney Weaver did something truly crazy. She played a 14-year-old Gnostic girl named Kiri in James Cameron's Avatar, The Way of Water. No AI, no special tricks, just her incredible acting talent. James Cameron wanted her to move and behave like a real teenager. She ran, climbed, and even made herself act awkward to prepare for the role. To get into character, she even read her old teenage diaries and worked with coaches to bring back that youthful energy. For 13 years, no one knew who Kiri's father was. Some thought he was a human, others thought it was a Gnostic warrior, and some even believed Pandora's goddess Iwa played a part. Weaver added her own touch to the character. She made up Kiri's deep connection with nature. One scene where Kiri bonds with underwater creatures wasn't even in the script, but Cameron loved it so much she kept it in. At first, people laughed at the idea of a 61-year-old playing a teenager, but she completely proved them wrong. The visual effects team used massive amounts of data to make her look younger, but everything else, her movements, her emotions, her voice, was completely real. Then, she became a villain in Netflix's The Defenders, but not a normal one. Alexandra Reed wasn't trying to rule the world, she was just trying to survive. She had lived for 500 years by stealing organs from others. Weaver told the writers to make her different. Instead of relying on magic, she wanted Alexandra to be smart and powerful in a quiet, chilling way. Her most chilling scene was when she poisoned someone's tea, and it felt like something out of a Shakespearean tragedy. Marvel didn't want her to die so soon in the show, but she insisted. Later, leaked emails even showed that Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, wished he had used her in Eternals. In 2013, she returned to Broadway after 20 years, starring in Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. The role was chaotic and full of physical comedy. One night, she tripped over a rug so hard she accidentally broke her co-star David Hyde Pierce's rib. She did all her own stunts, even when her costumes kept messing up. One time, she got stuck in a wig net on stage during a performance. People loved how wild and unpredictable she was. Once, she even went off script for 7 minutes, ranting hilariously about 1980 soap operas. The playwright loved it so much he added it to the show permanently. The budget almost collapsed because she demanded real vodka on stage for one scene. Her craziest moment, she secretly performed a matinee while sick with COVID-19. Later, she said she just channeled Masha's madness and kept going. Galaxy Quest, 1999, let Weaver beautifully make fun of her own sci-fi legacy. She played Gwen DeMarco, a character who hilariously mocked the ridiculous, often pointless roles women got in space movies. One scene where Gwen complains about the ship's random, pointless death traps was actually Weaver's idea. She got the idea after thinking about all the dumb plot holes and unnecessary deaths in Alien 3. She also improvised a famous line when running from a rock monster, but it almost got the movie an R rating because of its strong language. Behind the scenes, the screenwriter secretly fed her insults through an earpiece to make her as genuinely angry and frustrated as Ripley would be. Her costume even became a running joke. She kept accidentally ripping her sleeves to mock how impractical sci-fi outfits often were. The weirdest part, the by Grabthar's hammer, chant, a signature line in the movie, actually came from an old Saturday Night Live sketch about one of Weaver's failed Broadway plays. In Ghostbusters, Afterlife, 2021, Weaver's 37-second cameo was far more important than people realized. Her scene with Bill Murray wasn't just for fun. It strongly hinted that Dana Barrett, her character, was secretly funding the Ghostbusters' return and revival. Cut dialogue even revealed she helped rebuild Phoebe's proton pack, showing her continued involvement. During filming, she cleverly changed a line to hint that Dana might even have psychic powers of her own. She famously refused aging makeup for the role, proudly saying, "Dana survived Gozer. She's earned her wrinkles." The original plan for the cameo was that she was supposed to fight Zul again, but Weaver refused, saying Dana should be the one person who stays calm in all the chaos, a grounded presence amidst the supernatural. Sigourney Weaver and her husband, Jim Simpson, have been married for an incredible 40 years, which is extremely rare and impressive in Hollywood. They met in 1983 at a theater festival where he was bartending. She was actually dating someone else at the time, but later invited him to a party. He stayed to help clean up, and that small, kind moment led to their first date. 3 months later, on October 1st, 1984, they got married. She called it a leap of faith. They had a daughter, Charlotte, in 1990. Charlotte, or Char, is non-binary and works as a professor at Columbia University, focusing on AI and digital storytelling, a truly modern and fascinating path. Weaver openly struggled with balancing motherhood and her demanding career. While filming Avatar, Char was applying to colleges, and she said it almost killed her from the stress. Despite being a huge star, she chose a quiet life in New York, spending time hiking and deliberately staying away from the constant drama of Hollywood. Weaver faced many struggles early in her career. At 6 feet tall, she was often rejected for roles because she was taller than most male actors. She even jokingly talked about painting shoes on her feet to look shorter. Her daughter, Char, didn't care much about her mother's fame either. When someone mentioned Alien, Cher famously brushed it off, saying, "That goes in the little box of things I don't need to know." Weaver has always been a fierce advocate, speaking up about issues she deeply cares about. She works with the American Heart Association to raise awareness about heart disease, reminding women that it kills more people than all cancers combined. She also strongly supports abortion rights. In Call Jane 2022, she played a woman in an underground abortion network and said the film's message is more important than ever in today's world. She has also spent over 30 years fighting for gorilla conservation after starring in Gorillas in the Mist, 1988. She leads the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund and has won numerous awards for her dedicated work protecting these magnificent animals. She has taken bold stands, even when unpopular. In 2025, climate activists interrupted her play The Tempest on stage. The audience booed them, but Weaver bravely supported them, saying their message fit the play's theme of environmental destruction. Weaver hasn't made a big public fight about her own pay, but she definitely helped pave the way for women in action movies. Her iconic role as Ripley in Alien proved that women could lead big-budget films and be huge box office draws. Viola Davis once pointed out that white actresses like Weaver often earn far more than black actresses, saying, "I get a tenth of what they do." While Weaver was only paid $30,000 for the first Alien, later in her career, especially with Avatar, she earned much, much more. She has also consistently supported other women in Hollywood, backing projects like Prayers for Bobby, which focused on LGBTQ+ issues, and helping actresses like Elizabeth Banks in Call Jane. Outside of Hollywood, Weaver has been a UN Goodwill Ambassador for years, speaking out passionately on climate change, deforestation, and plastic pollution. She also helps fight addiction stigma and has worked tirelessly for refugee rights. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she even turned her New York apartment into a safe meeting space for climate activists like Greta Thunberg. In 2015, she risked arrest while protesting the Keystone XL pipeline, famously saying, "Silence is complicity." For Weaver, activism isn't just talk. It's a fundamental part of who she is, a deep commitment to making the world a better place. What do you think about Sigourney Weaver's incredible journey and her shocking revelations about Alien? Does hearing her side of the story change how you view the movies? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. If you were as captivated by this story as we were, please give this video a big thumbs up, share it with your friends who love movies and strong women, and definitely subscribe to our channel for more fascinating, untold stories from Hollywood. Your support helps us bring more hidden truths to light.